Good morning, all my precious friends. Thank you for joining me again on the Carnivore Hippie. And today, what are we going to talk about? I'm going to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot because it seems to be confusing to people, and hopefully we can bring some clarity to the situation. You hear a lot from whole food, plant-based diet advocates that human beings are adapted to eat carbohydrates. We have neural pathways that assist us in locating and remembering where to find carbohydrate-rich foods, especially carbohydrate-rich foods. We have color vision, which allows us apparently to pick out the bright colors of ripe fruits against a background of green leaves. We have salivary amylase, which apparently exists only to begin the digestion of starches. And we have a symbiotic gut microbiome that metabolizes the fiber we eat into beneficial substances for us. So that's all true. So how could anybody say that human beings shouldn't eat carbohydrates? Well, on the other hand, we have high fat, low carb, and carnivore diet advocates who will say, well, you certainly don't need to eat carbohydrates because your liver will make all the glucose you need. You only need about 5 milligrams circulating in your blood, and any more than that over time leads to hyperinsulinemia, chronic inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction. And your microbiome doesn't need fiber anyway, because the metabolism of dietary fat will create all of the same substances your microbiome can, and in greater quantity, by the way. So healthy humans are adapted to live without any carbohydrates at all, apparently perfectly happily. And lastly, most carbohydrate-rich foods also are rich in anti-nutrients. Things like oxalates and lectins and saponins and solanines and terpenes and a whole host of others that are too many to name. And all of these chemicals are either anti-nutrient, meaning they block you from absorbing necessary nutrients from the food, or they're inflammatory, or they're just outright toxic. So that's all true too. How can anybody say that human beings ought to eat carbohydrates? So where are we at? On the one hand, we have a set of facts, absolutely true, that are presented as evidence that human beings should eat carbohydrates. And on the other hand, we have an equally true set of facts that are presented as evidence that human beings should not eat carbohydrates. Where do we go? Well, I'll explain to you my train of thought. For the vast majority of our existence on this planet, human beings have subsisted in a food energy poor environment. What does that mean? Okay, it basically means that if you're in such an environment, the amount of micronutrient and energy that you can absorb from a piece of food is entirely or even more than entirely offset by the amount of micronutrient and food energy that it took to obtain that piece of food, pretty much. So no matter how much you eat, it costs you so much to get it that you essentially at a stalemate, or if you're lucky, you're essentially at a stalemate. If you're not lucky, you're sinking. So at such an environment, any source of food energy is a survival advantage, and think about when carbohydrate-rich foods are abundant in nature. It's almost always at the end of summer, the beginning of autumn, what we call the harvest season. Carbohydrate-rich foods explode. All the animals eat them up as fast as they can. because carbohydrate-rich foods tend to put on body fat in most mammals, and having more body fat gets you through the winter. So think about it. What is body fat? Right? Body fat is food that is stored on your body in a way where it cannot go bad. It is constantly available for you to use and doesn't need to be preserved. Okay? What an advantage. The fact that human beings are so good at putting on body fat is an indication that we are adapted to go periods of time without food. All right. Hummingbirds don't do that. Hummingbirds need to eat constantly, and they put on very little body fat except the kind that migrate. And then they will put on body fat once a year, and then they'll burn it all off or metabolize it all off on their migration. Bears, they get fat once a year and then sleep it off. So we know about this process. We've seen it in the animal kingdom, and human beings are obviously adapted for this same behavior. But it's different now, isn't it? We live, almost all of us, in a food energy rich environment. We have no necessity to fast anymore. We live in a food rich environment inside bodies that are adapted to food energy poor environments. So this is what we're looking at. I hope that this can help you make some sense of the debate that you've undoubtedly seen going on and help you make a logical decision about what you want to do. The knowledge that our natural proclivities, our desires for carbohydrates, aren't appropriately serving us anymore because we don't exist in the environment that we basically adapted to. So, if you've decided you would like to transition to a high-fat or a carnivore diet, please hang around and keep watching, because very soon we're going to be going into exactly how you can safely and rationally do that. Just a warning, please do not slam over into carnivore overnight, or even low fat, high carb, or even high fat, low carb, because you can have seriously distressing gut microbiome issues if you do that. Some people manage to do it just fine. They are outliers, believe me. So stay tuned. If you're interested in a carnivore diet, we'll be going into that very soon. Until then, you know what to do with these, and this, and this, and this. And I will see you all soon, my precious friends. Peace, love, and meat.